Thomas,
Hello.
thank you so much for agreeing to give us a bit of an insight. Before we go into the presentation, though, uh, I just wanted to find out a little bit. I know a little bit more about you, but for the benefit of the rest of the group, could you sort of give us a little bit of a little bit of an intro about sort of who you are, how long you've been doing this, before we get into the actual presentation?
So yeah, I'm Thomas. I've been doing hypnotherapy since 20. Well, I qualified in 2017. Before that, I worked in hotels and catering for 20 odd years at kind of HOD level and kind of F&B manager level within different places. And I was a functioning alcoholic and drug addict most of the time, until it all went a bit wrong and hit a rock bottom and came out the other side, thankfully. So yeah, I predominantly work with a lot of addictions, kind of like the hard stuff and the deep stuff too. Moving into kind of eating disorders and things now as well. So yeah, based up in Huddersfield, and I was lucky enough that I've been part of the Huddle now for about 3-4 years as well, and it was great when we could meet up, and it was just great. So that's me, really.
And hopefully we'll be able to do that again soon. For those people who are within travelling distance, we'll find somewhere in West Yorkshire that is convenient for most people and try and have a get together. Hopefully at some point this year. If not, we'll just continue doing. We'll continue. I think we're going to continue doing these online as well because they have been very popular. And how have you found lockdown, Thomas?
Do you know what? The first lockdown I kind of loved. Just that whole no expectation of being anywhere and no constraints and everything. And then I think kind of a couple of weeks before it started to unlock and it all started to lift, just got really busy. Had the busiest June, July, August that I've kind of ever had. So that kind of kept me busy, and then started to peter off. This last lockdown I've struggled. This has been hard, this last lockdown. Don't know why. It's just been different. It's just been harder.
I think we forget it's been so much longer as well, this one. So
yeah, it's been longer. Obviously, like the darker evenings and all that kind of stuff. But I had all these wonderful plans that I was going to do all this kind of stuff, and I was do all this kind of extra training on Centre of Excellence, and I hadn't done half of it.
No. I think we can all relate to that. Your best laid plans, but right. So what we'll do is I know you've got a presentation. I've had a sneak preview, and I will hand over to you to do that. If anyone does have any comments or questions during the presentation, please just pop them in the chat or keep them until we have the open discussion. But over to you, Thomas.
Cool, thank you. Like I said, I've got personal experience of being an addict, and when I first started doing therapy, I didn't start working with addiction straight away, probably because I needed to be in a better place myself. But I kind of was realizing that the stereotypical addicts aren't my clients, and kind of marketing and advertising addictions was kind of putting people off, or I wasn't getting the engagement. So I very much talk about problematic behaviors, problematic drinking. People's got the stereotypical addict or the alcoholic is someone, that drinks first thing in the morning, and, they're hanging around bus stations, or they're drinking the cheap stuff. One of my taglines in networking is, I'm not an alcoholic, I'm drinking Chablis. The fact I'm drinking 3 bottles of it is irrelevant. So just to kind of relate to people, I talk more about it being problematic. So that's that. Oh, come on. Where is it? There we go. So, like I said, lived experience, drinking drugs. I was that stereotypical addict. I was injecting. I was on benefits. I was unkept. I would only ever come out to kind of pick up. My life before that, you know, I was doing well. I was front of house manager in a 5-star hotel. And then just over time, it just all fell to pieces. January 2016 was my turning point, and a blank canvas. People talk about rock bottoms and everything, and I had been trying to stop and everything a long time before that, but that was when the kind of penny dropped. I didn't have to do detox or rehab. I did my recovery in daycare through Chart, which, well, back then it was Lifeline, the Basement. I went to NA and them kind of places. Started training in 2016. So that's me. Okay. So, like you kind of said, your clients, the demographic of your clients, they're going to be functioning. You know, they're paying for therapy. And our therapy isn't cheap either. So, you know, in all the years that I've kind of been doing this now, I can probably count on one hand the amount of the typical or the stereotypical addicts that I've had come into in and they've come for a consultation and they've gone off. Never heard from them again. So I just did this graphic here. So on the general side, you know, that's generally most people. You know, we all know that they do it to socialise, nights out, nights in. They can take it or leave it. They can have a few. They can open that bottle of wine and just have a couple of glasses. They engage in life. And this is kind of one of the key things for me. You know, they're engaging in life. They're going to sports with the kids, or they're getting up on a Saturday and doing things, or they've got hobbies and interests and they're going to family occasions. It's a treat. It's an add-on. It's occasional and it's responsibility. You know, they're living up to the responsibilities. They're paying the bills and they're doing that adulting, basically. Then we move into the problematic kind of area. I'm not going to teach Granny to suck eggs here. You know, you kind of know the stuff of what causes people problems. So whether it's food or drink or drugs or anxiety or exercising, it's just a different coping strategy for trauma, just disconnect with self, just all that kind of thing is there. So I'm not going to kind of go into and explain all that for you. So where it starts to become problematic is denying it, normalizing it. Oh, well, everyone drinks a bottle of wine a night. All the girls at work do it. All the lads do it. It's causing you problems at work. Maybe you're starting to get performance managed. Maybe you're kind of dropping balls and you're not kind of, your normal standard work is kind of slipping. People are noticing. Your family and relationships are starting to struggle. You know, I say at the bottom, you know, too many nights on the sofa. So, you know, are you arguing with the family and you're in the spare room or you're on the sofa? You're not engaging with your friends. You'd rather sit at home and drink, using the excuse of, oh, it helps me sleep. Secret drinking, buys 2 bottles just in case. Oh, you know, just in case I fancy that extra glass. But in the head, they're kind of saying, yeah, but I know I'm going to drink the 2 bottles. But they justify it by, oh, I'll just get the extra one just in case. Mood changes, always wants more, just about engaging. What do I mean by that? Just, you know, it's an argument to take the kids to swimming or to football or to pick them up from somewhere. It's always a drama. Driving, do over the limit, have they got done? Like I said, too many nights sleeping on the sofa. The finances, is kind of money getting a bit tight? You know, say they're drinking a bottle of wine a night, decent bottle of wine, £7. How much is that a week? How much is that a month? I know I've kind of spoke about drinking here. The reason I've kind of said about finances is when people start to, so when them clients come to me, it's normally through a third party. So it's a partner or a girlfriend or a mum or a dad. And the general reaction, particularly with gambling, is to cut off the money. So to take off the cards, don't give them access to the bank, and they basically give them pocket money. As much as that's helpful, it's also destructive as well, because if the temptation's not there, you don't know what the triggers are. You know, anyone can go to rehab and not use because you can't. But as soon as people come out, they've not dealt with that temptation, they've not come across that barrier. So finances can be quite important. It's about giving that person kind of autonomy to look after themselves. You know, 6 months down the line, oh, I've not gambled for 6 months. Oh, can I have my card back? Yeah, I can. Kid in a sweet shop. On the other side of this, you've got the addiction. You know, this is your stereotypical. So there's dependency, and I've kind of read a dependency, but I'll come back to that. But there's obsessive compulsive behaviors. You know, they can't rest, they can't settle until they've had that drink. If they don't have the drink, they're all over the place. They're isolating. No, you go out, love. It's all right. I'll stay at home. Or no, I don't want to go to family do. Well, they cause an argument, so they don't go, or they can go out and do whatever they want. The health's declining. The problematic in the addictions do cross over. They kind of feed one into the other, but you'll get that isolating in the problematic side as well. Loss of income, family breakup, personal upkeep. They're not washing, they're not showering, they're not eating properly. They're not engaging. Destructive, they're not bothered about what they're doing or who they're upsetting. Possible crime. There's no consequences, they don't care. And again, the finances, they're not paying the bills, that they're spending money on whatever the usage is. So the dependency. God, come on. So people kind of say, oh, I'm dependent on alcohol. And it's like, okay, let's talk about that. Do you experience withdrawals? And, oh, no. I have to drink. And I'm like, okay. And this is important about how you work with and particularly an alcoholic. Someone that is physically dependent on alcohol can't just stop. It can actually kill them. It can, if it doesn't kill them, it can cause maybe start epilepsy and seizures. There's wet brain, cognitive function can be impaired just by stopping drinking. So it's about a reduction process. So this is kind of why I've made it red. It's about having that conversation, because they say they're dependent, but actually they're not physically dependent. They're behaviorally, but not physically. Does that make a bit of sense? Yeah. So it's about how you work with that. Again, the amount of people that sat in the chair for me that's being physically dependent has probably been on one handful. Yeah, they're heavy drinkers, but they're not dependent. They're not getting to 12 o'clock in the daytime and they're sweating and they're shaking. For those kind of people, again, I've got experience in that. I've been there. Them kind of people know how to reduce down themselves, or you can refer them to the doctor, which I will come on to. they'll know how to do it. How do you work with that kind of client? If you so decided to, if you felt comfortable to, book the appointment for them before then withdrawals start. Again, that shows commitment and kind of, you know, engaging with the therapy. If they do need to drink, they just have enough to keep the withdrawals at bay. They kind of have this excuse of they have to get drunk to keep the withdrawals at bay. No, you don't. You just have to drink enough to keep, you know, just to soften them withdrawals. It's not about getting drunk at all. But if you've got any questions about that, because it's a bit of a grey area and it's always one for a bit of debate. So, what is too much for one is not too much for another. So, I could drink a bottle of wine a night and I'm functioning. It's not having an impact on my life. Somebody else could be drinking a bottle of wine a night and they're falling into that problematic behaviour. You know, what is the definition of an addict or an alcoholic? You know, there's not a tick list or a checklist that you can kind of check off. Again, this is a bit of a, I don't get technical with clients. How much are you drinking? Oh, a bottle of wine, 2 bottles of wine. Okay, that's fine. How much are you using? Oh, 3 or 4 grams a week. I'm not getting technical. I'm not getting into the units because they're not interested. You know, they want help to stop drinking. You don't need to explain to them how much they're drinking, and they'll know all that. Where did I lost my track? So I don't get technical with them. So I'm not asking too much about the drinking. In fairness, the consultation is probably the only time I'll speak properly about drinking and how much and when and how often, because the drinking or the drugs or the gambling isn't the problem. It's other stuff. So my questions that I ask is, you know, is it having a negative impact on your life? Are you paying your bills? Are you keeping up to your responsibilities? Are you engaging in life? You know, if they can kind of say, answer those, then my kind of follow-up is like, well, what's the problem then? Oh, well, it's not. I'm here because the wife wants me to sort it out. And again, as you know, with smokers, sometimes they come and appease, you know, they just come in to appease people. And that's kind of how you dwindle it down and kind of see who is really wanting therapy and who isn't. Just that, you know, do you want to stop drinking? No. Right, well, I'm not taking your money. Because it's my reputation that's in as well. And sometimes they're a bit like, oh, saying that, you will get the, yeah, but I enjoy it. I do, but I enjoy it. That you can work with. It's when they say, yeah, but I don't want to stop. It's the partner, it's the mum, dad. I don't want to stop. Anyway. So I call it my program, but it's very fluid. So like I said, the addiction is not the problem. It's what fueling it is. You know, take alcohol out of it and put chocolate in the place. You know, why does someone overeat? And this is kind of I find that people are scared to work with addiction. You know, they'll work with an overeater. They'll work with all them different kinds of people. But there's this seems to be this stigma around addiction. And yeah, you kind of do need to know what to do with it, like the alcohol kind of the side of it and the reduction side, and but there's nothing to really fear. It's all trauma. It's all disconnect. It's past. stuff. So that every client of mine gets the starting point session. So that's 90 minutes, and it's kind of an in-depth consultation, and I just do a general declutter, take off the surface stuff, because they're going to come in just like you would with a client with anxiety. They're just all over the place, and you don't, they can't grab onto anything, and they can't fully explain anything. So the declutter just kind of takes off that surface stuff, and then we can kind of assess moving forward. So more common at the moment is the session by session people. So these are kind of people where they're not quite problematic, but it's starting to be. People in lockdown, they're kind of fearing about going back to work now, and I've tried to stop, and actually I've found it kind of difficult, and I don't want to get into that problem place. So that's kind of session by session. I then work on a 5-session program, and all my sessions for this is 90 minutes, 45 minutes talking, 45 minutes hypno. And I challenge quite strongly sometimes. I know the lies, and where people do get into that problematic and the addiction end of that spectrum, they're full of their own beliefs, misbeliefs. Everyone's against me. I'm not worth it. I can't control this. It's kind of endless, and that's what they've been using to justify the beliefs. Oh, everyone hates me at work. My boss don't like me. I've got no money in the bank. There's always an excuse, and you need to smash that. Just like you do the smokers, you've got to smash all them beliefs. Lots of practical help and tips. I use a stop, look, and listen, which is, if you get that craving or that thought you want to drink, stop. Why? What's triggered it? Have you just seen something on TV? Is it a Wednesday night? Is it 6 o'clock? Are you bored? There's no right or wrong in it. And then the listen is listen to your internal dialogue. Is it assassinating themselves, or you can be what? Oh, go on, you've had a really busy day. You've not drank for 2 weeks. Go on, you can have a drink. We never stop, do we? We just react, respond to triggers. So just by stop, looking, and listening to ourselves or the client, they can kind of make an informed decision. There's lots of practical kind of help. If I kind of say to clients, a craving, an urge is just a thought, and you have thousands of thoughts a day. Do you act on them all? No, you don't. You're choosing to allow yourself to act on that craving and that urge. Yes, it's more powerful, and there's a lot more triggers and anchors to it, but at the end of the day, you're deciding to act on that thought, and it's about empowering them. But distractions, we've all got that kitchen drawer that wants emptying. Phone a friend, phone family, go for a walk, put something on TV. Sitting there with that craving, it's uncomfortable. So distract yourself, however you do it. And it's like anything. It's like any muscle. The more you work that muscle, the stronger it kind of gets. So you pass that pain barrier, that burn barrier. It's just exactly the same principle. The more they resist the urges and the cravings, the lesser they get, and the less frequent they get. But it's about understanding where that cravings come from and why. I don't use any other skills and tools that most of us have already got in there. So the first session is kind of like and dislike, doing some swish work. some form of clearance. I don't know if people have come across like the clearance protocol. There's Blueprint out there. There's the Island. There's lots of different kind of general clearance protocols, content free-ish. If you've already got some of that you kind of use, go for that. Second session is a more targeted approach. So say there's been some trauma or some an event. You'll kind of pick up this from your consultation and just talking to them that, you know, are you needing to do some timeline therapy? Are you needing to do some inner child work? Are you needing to do kind of more regression-y, Watkins Bridge kind of stuff? There's clients that I, you know, through all 5 sessions, I've kind of, you know, 3 of the sessions I've done, I've incorporated into that time the full timeline emotion. So the anger, the fear, the anger, the sadness, the fear, the hurt, and the guilt. I've kind of covered all them because that was relevant to the client. And I've not maybe gone near inner child stuff. I had a gambling client, and his anger that he didn't even know stemmed from, it took him back to being in a park when he was a kid, and his mum and dad were never together. They knew each other, and he was in the park one day and his dad walked past him and ignored him. And that kind of held on to that anger. So whenever he was angry and needing distraction, and in came the gambling. Again, you kind of experience and use the tools you've got. Like I said, I'm not using anything special here. Parts therapy. I just love parts, and I use that as my stopper. So brings me on to that one. So in the consultation, so I do a 20-minute consultation on the phone first before they come to see me. You know, that's me. Are they ready for this? Are they kind of gonna, do they want this? And, you know, do they want to work with me as well? I'm not talking about stopping until session 3. We're reducing down no matter what they're on. If it's drugs, if it's weed, I'm getting them to reduce down. And they'll come in, oh yeah, but I've been drinking. Right, okay, let's talk about that. How much have you been drinking then? Oh, well, I've only had 2 bottles. Okay, but when you saw me last week, you were having like 6, 7 a night. So it's okay that you're drinking, you're reducing it, and you kind of giving them that element of that. Do you know what? Actually, I can control this. I've never been able to do that before. And session 4 is just kind of what's left outstanding. And then the 5th session is a 1-month follow-up. So they're kind of in therapy with me for 2 months. In and amongst that, I have a 24-hour SOS. My phone is always on. So the one good thing about the likes of NA and AA and them kind of services, you connect to people that understand. And, you know, if you go to the meetings, one of the first meeting you go to, you get a list of numbers of people that you can ring. And for me, that was really, really important. So it's something that I pass on to my clients. I manage that though. So again, it's a very direct and straight conversation. Ringing me at 6 o'clock in the evening on your way home, and you're thinking of going and getting a bottle of wine. It's a conversation. Ringing me at 2 o'clock in the morning, drunk on your pity pot. Are you alive? Do you need anything? I'll speak to you tomorrow. If you haven't experienced that obsessive compulsiveness about something, you know, someone just saying, you know, ringing a friend and just saying, I just need to talk to you because I don't really want to go and buy a bottle of wine. Well, don't then. It's not as easy as that. And it's about that understanding. So someone ringing me up and saying they've got a craving, you don't have to tell me about that. I know what it is. And, so, you know, when they do ring me, we don't talk about really what's going on. It's just about distracting them. We'll do that in the next session. You know, we'll just talk about stupid stuff. It's the distracting. So it's not always focused on the addiction, because when they get home, all they're getting watched by family, and it's the topic of stuff. It's every topic. It's always on the agenda. And they just need that break from that. Anyway, how am I doing for time?
Absolutely fine.
Okay, cool. I feel like I'm kind of machine gunning it. Your client, okay. Not really sure whether they want to stop or not, or control it. Again, this kind of builds into the stigma of, oh, you're an alcoholic, you've got a drink problem, you can never drink again. The line, yes, there is a line. You know, that's the line when you do start being physically dependent to it. When you start, you know, waking up and you've got to go for the vodka or the wine or something. There's a line, and my feeling, my personal feeling is that, you know, if you cross that line, there's kind of no coming back from it. You're in very, very dodgy territory to get. It's a slippery slope that you could very quickly find yourself back where you've just left. But I always suggest to clients, regardless what it is, do you know what? Just have a month without drinking. You've drank for 10 years. Why not just experience a month of not drinking? And just see how that feels, and then make the decision. Do you want to stop, or do you want to just control it? Again, you know, we know about how powerful kind of language can be with people. So if you've constantly got people, you need to stop drinking, you need to stop drinking, you need to stop drinking. You kind of think they've got to stop drinking, when actually, no, they just need to cut back and control it. You know, if you've got someone on a diet, did they stop eating? No, they don't. They still eat. You just control it. All this kind of stuff in my head is kind of no different to working with weight control and that kind of thing. It's just the thing that they're using. Struggle to understand why they can't control it. So I spend quite a lot of time in that 45 minutes of the session talking about fight and flight, talking about programs, talking about triggers and understanding that, and just kind of unpicking whatever comes up, just like you would do with an anxiety client or some other. What they often think the issue isn't. Again, we've probably come across many times of this. Someone comes and sits in the chair and they're kind of saying this is the problem when it actually isn't. So the gambling client, in his head, his gambling addiction started when he'd split up with his long-term girlfriend. By the time he come to see me, he was about 30-40 grand in debt, and this was just by clicking a mouse. So the kind of bingo stuff on thing. But he was convinced. He was, you know, when he said, you know, it all started when me and my girlfriend finished. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. So just kind of talking, and I used parts early with him, and when we got the parts, we went back to, so I talk about it being, when did it become a coping strategy? Not a habit or anything, a coping strategy. And when it took us back, he was 16, and it was the 2008 recession, and he wanted to go and work for the dad's business, but his dad wouldn't let him, and he made him go to college. So anytime he could get out of college and miss class, he'd go to the bookies. And then it's just progressed from there onwards. You know, it put money on the it put money on football matches. He'd go to casinos. He'd go horse racing. So that the coping strategy was kind of always present. It escalated when he split up with his girlfriend. The coke client that I've currently got, actually. So he didn't really start taking drugs until he was about 30. And it kind of got a hold of him really quickly. So when we've kind of unpicked that as well. So before, his coping strategy, he was, he was high up into jiu-jitsu, fighting. He was big into exercise. So that's kind of his coping strategy. So I kind of said, well, why did you stop doing that? And he was like, oh, well, I got married and had kids. So his coping strategy was that exercise and fighting, basically. And when that stopped, he needed to find another way to manage what was going on. And that became coke. So unwrapping that, but the coke isn't the problem. Him dealing with his anger is. And how he manages that anger. Just when I took him back to where the anger started from, he was 4 years old and he was in the garden, and I knew this already anyway, but he was picking at a wall with a knife, picking the plaster off the wall, and the knife sprung out and ended up in his eye, so he's blind in one eye. And the anger wasn't about the accident. What was the anger about? The anger was about him being told off not to do it. So it can be really something small like that that has that massive impact. I kind of talk about as well with people, it's not what happens sometimes to people that causes problems or issues. It's also what doesn't happen that can have just as much as an impact. The now, so what they're drinking on, what they're gambling on, what they're using drugs on now will be different to when it started. So before it was a coping strategy, before it was social, then it became, Thursday became the new Friday. That kind of progression and evolving. Then suddenly they've kind of realized, oh, might have a problem with this. I might try and stop. And then they find they can't, or they manage to do it for a couple of weeks, and then really, really quickly they'll find themselves back in square one. By the time they tend to get to us, they're drinking on the fact they can't control it. They're drinking on the fact that they're causing problems in the family and work's having a drama. And you end up on that roundabout with no exits. So they're actually drinking on the current situation, not actually what the coping strategy was starting to do. And it's about looking past that. The reason will still be there in the background. You're not responsible for lapses, relapses. So if someone week, say they've come to you and they've already stopped drinking, but week 2, they come back and say, oh, I've drank. It's not your fault. You don't stand there and pour it down the neck. They've got to take some responsibility, but lapses can be helpful for therapy. Okay, so let's unwrap that. What was going on? You've done 2 weeks without drinking. What was different? What happened? One client that I had told me, And again, I'm very upfront and honest. You know, all I ask from you is honesty and the desire for change. With that, anything can happen. Just be honest with me. And he said, that's it, I've thrown out all the drink. I was like, okay, that's fine. So he rang me up then drunk, and he was like, oh, I've drank. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll touch base tomorrow and see what's going on. So I was like, well, so you either lied to me and to yourself and when you said you'd thrown the drink out, or you hadn't thrown the drink out, or you decided, you thought about drinking, you got up, you put your coat on, you went to the shop, you bought it, you carried it home, you got in, you took your jacket off, you opened it and you sat and drank it. So don't tell me you don't know how it happened, because you do. Sometimes you need to be that blunt with them. So that lapse was really helpful because it kind of opened up things that we hadn't really come across prior to that. So yeah, look at it as a positive that, okay, we're not quite there yet. We're still missing something. Nearly done, actually. I think this is the last one. Working safely. I've kind of talked about alcohol and withdrawals. I always working on a reduction process. Again, like I said, I always kind to encourage them to have a period of nothing. If they've already stopped, maintaining that. If you don't feel safe and you don't feel confident with it or secure with it, just pass it on, refer it on. Like I said, but the amount of times I've kind of got people that have been dependent is been, yeah, handful, if that. And again, I've had that conversation with you. Do you know what? I'll work with you, but you need to go and kind of get rid of the dependency on it, and then we can take it from there. Or, like I said, I've arranged appointments in the morning before they need to have that first drink. GPs and safeguarding. Okay. Again, bit of a grey area. So say you've got a social worker. I'm just picking someone that's got a responsible job. Maybe they have to give a medical report or something to the company that they work for or whatever every couple of years or every year. They're not going to go to the GP for help because it will automatically go into the medical record. If you've got a policeman or a fireman, someone that needs to do an assessment for the job. Foster carers. The foster carers struggle to go to the GPs for antidepressants and anti-anxiety tablets because every couple of years they've got to redo the Form F and they don't want that on there. So they're not going to be going to the GP because they don't want to do that. And in fairness, all the GP is going to do is refer them to services. They don't do anything. They can't. You know, the only people that can prescribe medication to help with withdrawals and stuff is actually people that's employed in the drug and alcohol services. So yes, GPs have the place, but you know, if they were your stereotypical addicts, yes, they can refer them on to mental health and that kind of thing. But if you're a functioning person, that's a professional person that doesn't see them as an addict, and they go to the GP and the GP says, oh, okay, I'll refer you on to this. Yeah. The safeguarding side of it, again, this is my personal kind of thing of it. You know, do I assess every client in my head? Yes, I do. You know, is this person a risk? Do I need to consider about family and that kind of stuff? Yeah, I do. But sometimes the client is safer being in the chair than not being in the chair. If you say to the client, oh, do you know what? I need to refer you to social services. I need to speak to your doctor, or I need to do this. They're going to run because it's the one thing they don't want to do. And I know that's going to be kind of a debating topic, but that's how I kind of work it. Like I said, there's other help out there. NA, Narcotics Anonymous, Gamblers. SMART is more of a, it's almost like a CBT. I don't know if anyone's come across SMART recovery, but it's more CBT tools based than now based services. So I have had people where they've gone to the GP and the GP's referred them to, let's say, Chart, and they've gone to Chart and they're there. And I don't know if anyone's ever been into most places like Chart. It's an experience. And they're like, I don't relate to this. I don't resonate with any of this. They've gone to groups with different places, and you've got someone that's, and again, it has been a bit stereotypical. They're sat in a room with people that are on benefits, and they're all talking about PIP and the ESA and social workers and probation and detox and rehab. They're like a duck out of water or a fish out of water. They just don't relate to them people. They think they're better than them. There's hierarchy in addiction. Oh, I'm not on a heroin. I'm not that much of an addict. There's even kind of within the scope of cocaine, I'm on the pure stuff. I'm not getting it off someone that's just turned up on a scooter in a tracksuit. I'm getting it off the big boys. So there's hierarchy in there as well. But then people don't resonate. So sending them to services, again, they're gonna go off back out into the ether. But you can use that to your advantage. If they come to you and say, do you know what, I've registered and I've gone and done some of the groups. I'm like, okay, can you see yourself being in that position in 5 years' time? Can you see yourself being on probation or having to fight for your kids? And they're like, yeah, I can actually. So you can use that to a benefit as a kind of that aversion treatment therapy. But NA saved my life, it did. But it can be very negative too. And yeah. I think that's it.